We read in the Bible, no one has ever seen, no one has ever heard, no one has ever imagined what God has prepared for those who love Him.
Hi everyone, welcome to this word of encouragement. I'm Chappie Chris.
And I'm Chappie Peter.
Recently we passed through Gundawindi on the border of Queensland and New South Wales.
Yes, we try to get around and look at the world, don't we, Christine?
We do.
Have a look at a tourist venue we encountered there.
Welcome to Nungwal, where a local Gundawindi artist, Angus Wilson, who has a love of reusing old materials, breathes new life into them as pieces of sculpture. This is just a brief glimpse, and you must visit this sculpture trail yourself.
The kangaroos were well done, weren't they?
And you were certainly dwarfed by that table and chair, weren't you? They were that big.
Sure was. This reminded us of a story in the Bible about a king's table and someone who was allowed to sit there, reminding us that God allows us to sit at His table, enjoying communion with Him spiritually and literally in the next life.
A disabled young man named Mephibosheth was a son of Jonathan, the grandson of King Saul.
Enmity had existed between King Saul and David, but David was close friends with Jonathan, Saul's son.
The Bible outlines the story of David, a former shepherd boy and famous warrior, who ultimately attained his position of king after King Saul, and also the reputation of being a man after God's own heart.
Saul and his son Jonathan were killed in battle, leaving the way clear for David to take the throne.
It was a bit of a tragedy, wasn't it?
It was.
Fearing that there might be trouble under the new king, Mephibosheth's nurse took Jonathan's young child and hid him, and on the way dropping him in her haste to escape, and he grew up disabled.
King David wanted to show kindness to any family members of Saul and Jonathan still living, and Mephibosheth was sought out and welcomed into the royal palace.
Well, that would have been great, wouldn't it?
Certainly would.
It's important to note that he did not come to solicit the king's help, Christine, but rather the move came from the king.
No doubt Mephibosheth was scared and felt unworthy due to the fact that his grandfather was King David's enemy, and also felt inadequate because of his disability.
Yes, you could just imagine, couldn't you? As David searched for Mephibosheth, in the same way God seeks us, not because of any merit in us, but because of His kindness, love and faithfulness, showing amazing grace to each of us.
Grace, as we understand, is God's undeserved favour. God takes the initiative, seeking us while we are still broken and hiding.
Right, isn't it? It's as if Jesus is holding out His hand ready to lift us out of our pit of despair and brokenness, not because of who or what we are, but because of who He is.
That's wonderful. Though crippled in both feet, Mephibosheth was given a permanent seat at David's table, treated as one of the king's sons.
Wow, what a story, eh? And this is a great reminder that God welcomes us into His family, despite our weakness, faults, or feelings of unworthiness, to sit with Him, to share fellowship, and to enjoy the privileges of His kingdom as His sons and daughters.
Sitting at the king's table meant Mephibosheth's lameness was hidden under the cloth of the banquet table.
That's interesting, isn't it? And likewise, our brokenness and shame are covered by God's grace and our redemption brought about by Jesus.
It is comforting to note that we are not defined by our past or our failures, but by the place we are given in God's presence.
A right place, Christine, available to all who avail themselves of God's favour.
Imagine Mephibosheth saying, when the king's messengers found him, "No, I don't need the king's favour. I don't want it."
Happily, he was not that foolish. He did say, "I'm not worthy to be noticed, to be elevated to the ranks similar to being a child of King David."
Happily, we need not spurn or reject God's offer to be one of his children and eligible through faith to sit at his table.
This story is certainly a touching historical record, isn't it, Christine, of a king's favour and loving kindness.
Sure is. All of us are recipients of God's favour, who, like a shepherd, is not willing to lose any of his sheep, but we, like wayward sheep, blindly or deliberately go our own way, ignoring or rejecting God's favour in offering us a seat at his table.
And those of us who have accepted God's favour, in offering the free gift of forgiveness, sit at our Lord's table in spirit as children of the King of Kings.
One day we will enjoy this fellowship literally, as we read of what is called the marriage supper of the Lamb, when the church, made up of folks like us all, meet our Lord in heaven, where we are assured that the best is yet to come.
Something to look forward to, Christine.
Sure is.
David certainly gives us an understanding and example of God's kindness in showing this to someone who could never repay him.
In Jesus, we see the same, an everlasting kindness that lifts the undeserving and seats them in heavenly places. And now prayer.
Lord, thank you for your grace that enables followers to sit at your table and enjoy close communion with you. Thank you for your grace that not only sits me there, but enables me to be your child and provides for me as one of your royal family.
Take a few moments to reflect on these questions. Today's story reminds me of God's grace and loving kindness in my own life. What does it mean to me personally that God took the initiative to seek me out, rather than waiting for me to come to him? In what ways have I experienced God's table of fellowship moments where I've known his acceptance, love, and provision despite my brokenness? What past failures, shame, or feelings of unworthiness do I need to leave under the tablecloth of God's grace? How does the promise of sitting at the marriage supper of the Lamb shape the way I live and trust God today? Big Rosie, the chappie's older furry friend, had to borrow Bonnie, the Chihuahua's blankie, as it has been so cold in New South Wales. Have a look at the temperature. Rosie says in rather wolfish tones, "Take me back to Boulia. I can't stand it here." We hear her and silently agree. Could this be the work of airline baggage handlers? Sure looks like it. This was once like this. Actually, Chappie Pete wasn't looking where he was going in the car. We have our doubts about him sometimes. However, we mustn't laugh. Remember, he or she who is without fault can cast the first stone, so the good book says. And while forgiveness is not library policy, it is Christian policy. Have you heard of Hobson's choice? Chappie Pete has a choice apparently to choose freedom or join the ranks of the good guys. It's all very confusing for a country gentleman in Sydney. He resorted to the old adage, when in doubt do nothing. What would you choose? Be careful.
Thanks for joining us.
Yes, we'll talk some more another time. Many blessings.